participants. I am Umman Thomas from SAMS Coaching School of Business, and I am honored to be your host of the day. On behalf of KMA, it's my honor to welcome you to the 12th edition of KMA InsightX series. This series brings together leaders, experts, and thinkers who help us understand ideas that shape the future of business, society, and leadership. Today's theme, Beyond Green Buildings, Sustainability as a Way of Life, encourages us to look at sustainability not as a single activity, but as a part of everyday living. We are here to understand how sustainability can move beyond buildings and become part of our decisions, our habits, and our culture. With this purpose, let us officially begin this evening's program. May I request everyone to kindly stand for a short moment of silent prayer. Let us take this moment to reflect, be grateful, and prepare ourselves for the decisions ahead. Thank you all. Please be seated. To start our formal program, it's my privilege to invite a leader who has played a key role in shaping this series. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Dilip Narayanan, Vice President and Program Chair of KMA, to deliver the welcome address and introduce our keynote speaker. Sir, we invite you.
Namaskaram. Distinguished Chief Guest, Architect G. Shankar, Honorary Joint Secretary Lekha Balachandran, past Presidents, Managing Committee members, invited guests, KMA members, student chapter members, good evening. It gives me great pleasure to welcome all of you to the 12th edition of InsightX in this KMA year. It's wonderful to see such a strong participation, large gathering on a Friday evening. Thank you for taking time to be here in this evening. The feedback we continue to receive on the InsightX series Friday after Friday has been very encouraging. It reminds us that these conversations do matter. Please keep sharing your thoughts and suggestions with us so that we can curate better programs every time. Today's session addresses a theme that is both urgent and timeless: sustainability. More importantly, it invites us to see sustainability not as a compliance requirement or a technical solution, but as a way of life and a leadership choice. It's my privilege to introduce our speaker for this evening, Padma Shri Architect G. Shankar. He doesn't need much introduction. However, Architect Shankar is widely known as People's Architect. He's a founder of Habitat Technology Group, established in 1987, which today stands among India's most respected institutions in sustainable architecture, cost-effective housing, and community-driven development. Long before this term sustainability entered into boardrooms and our lexicon, Architect Shankar's work showed how responsible design, local materials, and participatory construction could transform lives at scale. An alumnus of the College of Engineering, Trivandrum, and the Birmingham School of Architecture in the UK, Architect Shankar brings together technical depth, global exposure, and an exceptional ability to communicate ideas. He has received more than 20 national and international awards for green architecture, slum resettlement, and eco-city design. And in 2011, he was honored with the Padma Shri recognition by the Government of India. He had a lot of things to You would have heard about him leading the UN mission, a very, very sought after visiting faculty from various international universities, advisor to various governments, not only India, even outside. As cities expand and climate risk intensify, his work reminds us that sustainability is not just about buildings, it's about communities, it's about equity, it's about the use of responsible resources and long-term thinking. His work and life offers powerful lessons for business leaders, policymakers, students, and professionals shaping the organizations and society today. You would have seen in social media about his house and his office, which is built on not on steel and cement. Before I invite our speaker, I have few brief announcements as President is not in town today on our upcoming KMA initiatives. Clasis KMAC, as you know, our flagship annual management convention is scheduled on 15th and 16th of January. Over 2 days across 10 tracks, we will host 50 plus eminent speakers, industry leaders, and policymakers. The event will be held at the Grand Hyatt. Delegate registrations are now open, and I strongly urge all members to register early and take advantage of the offer currently going on. As you know, our early bird offer with the Raymond trolley bag was exhausted in just 2 days with 100 registrations. We are now continuing the early bird offer with a free American Tourister backpack and a 2,000 rupees discount valid until 31st December. We are also preparing for the Green Palm Sustainability Summit and Awards to be held on 22nd April, the World Earth Day. This platform recognizes organizations and leaders creating meaningful impact in sustainability, ESG, and CSR. The award submission notification will be announced soon after the annual management convention. We look forward to your participation. We also have launched a new KMA LinkedIn page. Our ED Jojo will be sharing you the link shortly. I encourage all members to follow the page, connect, and keep the InsightX conversations alive by engaging with our speakers and content. Our next session on the InsightX series will be on the next Friday. Our earlier KMA Manager of the Year Award winner and the leader in HR, Senior Vice President and Head of Talent Acquisition at Federal Bank, Ms. Shabina Shaji, will be talking on the intersection of HR, AI, and the latest work trends. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in giving a warm welcome to Padma Shri Architect G. Shankar to deliver today's InsightX address titled Beyond Green Buildings, Sustainability as a Way of Life. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dilip Narayanan sir, for your warm welcome and for giving us a clear direction for today's session. We now move to the keynote address, the main part of today's program. We are honored to have us with Padma Shri Dr. Architect G. Shankar, founder of the Habitat Technology Group. Sir is a respected pioneer in sustainable and eco-friendly architecture. His work has changed how India thinks about building responsibly and living in harmony with nature. Through his work, he reminds us that sustainability is not only about technology, but it is all about values, culture, and our duty to society. It's my honor to invite Dr. Architecture G. Shankar to speak on the theme Beyond Green Buildings, Sustainability as a Way of Life.
Thank you all for the glorious words of introduction. I see an eminent galaxy of personalities around me. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to talk to you. Sustainability, as you know, is my blood and is my life. So I'm very passionate about it, and that's why I want to share my passion and compassionate thoughts about sustainability through the works that I'm doing. As you all know, although by qualification I'm an architect, I would style myself as an activist, both as an environmental activist as a social activist. And through activism, I'm actually trying to promote the root causes, the purpose of life, the purpose of sustainability through my buildings. That's for the introduction. And my subject, as I chose, was beyond green buildings, sustainability as a way of life. As I told you, this is my life, this is my blood, and this is my sweat. So I will relate my concerns about sustainability through architecture, through my own journey. That's what I call as journey of an unfinished symphonist. As an activist, to promote sustainability, I've been waging battles, bloody battles, I would say. I've gone through physical assaults. Every day I'm going through mental assaults for trying to save our Mother Earth, trying to stick on to the values, trying to stick on to the basic principle of people-centeredness. I'm always trying to promote what I call as, I'm not a manager per se, I don't belong to this clan. I actually belong to a non-profit organization, not-for-profit organization. It's a completely different domain. We had all the opportunities in the world. Having graduated from Birmingham School of Architecture, I could have gone into management in a big way. I could have talked about low-cost housing all across the world. But instead, I chose a very difficult path. It was a difficult path because I chose this way probably 40 years back, where nobody was talking about sustainability, nobody was talking about people-centeredness, nobody was talking about value-based architecture based on truthfulness and honesty. And when I started my practice, there was, of course, a beacon of light before me. A person called Laurie Baker was there, and through his buildings and through the beautiful designs, he was showing us the way. And that way, I thought, instead of Laurie Baker, I never worked with Laurie Baker, but I still see him as a great mentor for me. I've never worked with Laurie Baker. I go into his buildings, and even at this age, when I get tired, when I get attacked, when I'm isolated, I go to a Laurie Baker building to get charged again. Because of what? Because of the passion, the compassion, because the values he tried to imbibe through his vocabulary of building materials, his space management techniques and things. It still continues to inspire me. And that's how I'm here. And when I'm talking about the journey, I should talk to you about that because only then you will try to understand the meaning behind this particular word. Sustainability, as you know, green, for example, it's a worn-out word now. People are increasingly talking about certain things which are not really sustainable. Here we are sitting in a place where air quality, indoor air quality as we call it, IAQ we call it, short form, IAQ is heavily compromised. IAQ is very vital for human health. Indoor air quality is very important for human health. And we are sitting in a contrived atmosphere where indoor air quality is heavily compromised. I should use this word, brutal word, heavily compromised. When I say heavily compromised, everything around this actually breeds millions of small microcosms which will actually add to your health issues. So this is a completely different kind of domain that I'm going to open before you. And I request all of you to participate, be with me on this journey. Because at the end of the day, when I go back to Trivandrum, I should leave some questions behind you, questions back. The younger generation sitting in front of me should pursue these questions. I can only ask you questions. I can really give you answers. But the questions that I'm going to ask you are very pertinent. And together, at the end of the day, 7:15 to 7:25, there's a session where we should talk to each other. I'm going to give my thesis to you. You please come out with an antithesis, and together can we look at a world where a synthesis. Let me tell you, I'm going to give you my ideas based on my experiences, and you have to react to it very sharply. You give me your antithesis. Together, can we get into conversations? This conversation is very important because these conversations will take you forward. We need to talk to each other. We need these meaningful dialogues. Because there are lots of controversies, even about the term sustainability, lots of controversies are there. They call this green air conditioning, they call glass as a green material. You have to ask this question yourself. That's how I learned my way into sustainability, you know. When I was a young student of architecture, much before that, when I was in the school, that's what actually led me to sustainability. For the first time, when I was in the school, I had the rare opportunity to get into some social campaigns talking about taking science and technology to the people. As a 7th standard student, I still remember I was carrying these smokeless chulas on my head. 7th standard student, studying in school, I was trying to be a part of a movement that actually talked about taking technology and science to the people at large. You know, those days when I was saying, we're using a lot of firewood for our fuel purposes. Firewood, toxic gases. When you burn firewood, you actually emit a lot of toxic gases. And who inhales the toxic gases? The poor, the dispossessed, the deprived of the society, poor people. They were inhaling a lot of toxic gases that comes out of the firewood. We thought as science activists, school students as science activists, we thought, how could we mitigate the effect of toxic gases? How could you do that? Minimize the firewood that could be used for fueling purposes. How do you minimize it? So we kind of devised a small chula, a smokeless oven as we call it, and where we used to use probably 10% of the firewood that we used to use for making our rice bowls and things like that. 10% of firewood means 10% of emission. So that way we were trying to save 90% of the poisonous emissions. That's how I started my career. And that led me into, and let me tell you, with such pride and pleasure, let me tell you that led me into amazing vistas of understanding. Amazing vistas of understanding. I could see poverty at such close quarters. I started working with the traditional fishermen when I was in the 7th standard. As a brilliant student, I always used to believe in one dictum which said, I don't want to name the person who said it, but I always believed that. Highest technical qualifications. Let me reiterate that word again. Highest technical qualifications blended with social aspirations. I still believe that they make the best of men and women. Highest technical qualifications blended with social aspirations. I still believe that they make the best of men and women. I still stick on to that preface, I have not deviated from that. When I was in the 7th standard, I got in another social campaign. The social campaign, now നമുക്കൊക്കെ അറിയാവുന്ന കാര്യമാണ് സ്ത്രീ ശാക്തീകരണം. It's a new word now. But at that age, probably how many years back? 4 decades back, probably 5 decades back, when I was in the school, I started, I was a part of the literacy movement. It is the most deprived of Kerala society. Do you know who are them? They are the traditional fishermen sect. Traditional fishermen sect. Who lost their jobs, who lost their life because of mechanical trawling came into this thing and they lost their jobs. And people living on the hills, tribals as we call them. These people still remain as the most dispossessed, deprived, marginalized societies of the world. And I had a great opportunity to work with the traditional fishermen. Traditional fishermen, when I was at school, I used to see them walking on the streets for a long time, long distances. They would come to your house at about 8 o'clock in the morning and they go back to their homes at 7 in the evening. That is when, as school students, our mission starts. We used to go to their, I still remember my parents with such magnanimity because they were kind enough to let me go at that age, go away from my house. And I used to spend my evenings, nights in the fishermen chalets, where I had the first exposure to people without any resources. They didn't have tomorrows. Have you seen people without tomorrows? I've seen them when I was hardly 10 or 11 years old. When I started seeing them, I started seeing the reality of Indian polity. I started to see the real cross-section of Indian social status. That is when I decided, whatever I study, what am I going to do? I have to base itself in values. That will finally benefit the marginalized people. Finally, Jesus said, they inherit the world. They inherit the world. He said, they inherit the world, as Jesus said. They inherit the world. So I made a decision at that age. When I was 12, I made a decision to go into one faculty of learning. Probably that will help them to, through my knowledge, can I shed some little light to their life, to improve the quality of life. And that is when everything came into position, Sustainability came, green buildings came, the vocabulary of building materials came, the technologies came, the local capabilities came, and then I started building buildings, Much later, I took up architecture as my profession. And, one thing I still remember, what really prompted me was people were willing to experiment. Kerala, I had a great opportunity to work in Kerala. After I completed my master's from Birmingham, I was actually that age. It was in England. I'm telling you, I was drinking unadulterated milk for the first time in my life. It was in England. I was eating crunchy apples, which I never saw in Indian markets. Green, crunchy apples. I never saw them in Indian market. We get all these apples that come from Kashmir after a few weeks. First time I was eating these crunchy apples in England. Everything was very beautiful. Those days, 40 years back, we had reticulated gas supply, the electricity, everything was so beautiful. One day, as I was completing my master's, a professor, the next university I graduated from, I took a master's at University of Birmingham. And there was another professor who actually was teaching in the professor of architecture from Newcastle on Tyne. He came. Those days, no mobiles, no telephones, there was only telegrams and a few lines of communication. And he came driving down all the way up to Newcastle on Tyne, and he invited me. He said, Shankar, we want to develop a department of housing in third world countries, and can you just take up the responsible building this department? You see, as an average Malayali, he was as being offered an unlimited freedom, unlimited amount of money that I could take home. Probably those days, if you multiply with rates, it would have come to 6-digit salaries, 6-digit, where an engineer in Kerala, PWD, would hardly get 3-digit salaries, I'm talking about those days. Actually, I was tempted. I asked my mother, the only person to whom I could ask advice. She said, Shankar, this is a magical moment that has happened. Magical moment. God has blessed you with such a magical this thing. You take it up, because in Trivandrum, I won't be able to sustain you I won't be able to give you some opportunities like this. God has given these opportunities. It's a magical moment in your life. Go ahead. Go through the door. But I paused for a week. I just really paused for a week. I thought about it. And I've never regretted the decision. I'm telling you. With such pride and pleasure, let me share that pleasure, of sharing that happiness. That day, I had the courage of telling my professor that, look, I think India is a land of opportunities. I said 40 years back, I said it to my English professor. I said, India is a land of opportunities. I may not get the kind of money, the freedom, the opportunities, the kind of life, the kind of quality of life that every Malayali is aspiring for. I may not get all that thing. But India is a land of opportunities. As an architect, I could reach out. I could hold hands. I'd hold them close to my heart and do some meaningful change, This is what I'm requesting all of you. Be the change. You're all change makers. You're all successful entrepreneurs. You're all, you're nursing dreams. You're making them true. You're all privileged to be in that clan of people. You're changers, change makers. You be the change in yourself. And I thought, where else can we get an opportunity to build? So when I have never regretted that decision. So I took up the challenge of becoming an architect. I started working for the government. I'm telling you, I didn't have an option. I came back, I had to fend for my family. For a few months, I worked for the government. But I thought, when I started working for the government, I think that didn't mean anything. So for me, I wanted some meaningful interventions in the domain of architecture. That's why I turned to non-profit sector, voluntary sector, and that has kept me on. That is for the beginning. I'll just go ahead because time is limited. When I talk about sustainability, we always talk about Mother Earth. This is the thing that you take very close to your heart, We are talking about one planet and 7 billion dreams. That's the thing. We are talking about one planet, one mother planet, our Bhumi, and 7 billion dreams to keep. This is the spirit in which you should look at sustainability. It's beyond green buildings and beyond everything. We all nurse dreams. We are pursuing dreams. We are looking at vistas that will open. We are pursuing dreams. When you pursue dreams, You should be very clear about the path that you should take. It should talk about the linkages, the bondages, the bridges. When we talk about how do you react with nature, that's very important. People in the center. Why do I talk about the symbiotic relationship with nature? We need clean air. We need clean air. We need clean food, safe food, as Dr. says. We need safe food. We need clean air. We need a cleaner planet. And who are the people who are spoiling? We as a human race, we are actually posing challenges to nature. So this symbiotic relationship, this organic relationship should be built up in terms of cultural values, in terms of social values. You should really understand that we are the people. We are going to be change makers, and we should drive the change. That's how you should see it. When you plant a tree, നമ്മുടെ കവി പറഞ്ഞ പോലെ ഒരു മരം നടുമ്പോൾ നമ്മൾ നടുന്ന ഒരു തണലാണ്. We are actually, when you plant a tree, we are providing shade. That shade is very critical for human beings. We need to be in the shade. We need a cooler planet. We need a less threatening planet. And how do you make it is a challenge. That is all about sustainability. When I talk about sustainable choices are there. I was walking through this street, first time. I was walking the streetscape. I walked all the way up. We need that urban space is very critical for the existence of the city. Urbanization, my dear friends, the pace and intensity of urbanization is so staggering. I'm telling you, it's so overwhelming. When I was young, I could see villages, I could see semi-urban areas, I could see peri-urban areas, then I could see metros. Now look at the development all around. I was driving from Vaikam down to Tripunithara to Vaitla and down to this place. Look at the kind of spread that is having. Now, every other town around Ernakulam has become a part of the greater Cochin domain. You see, the urbanization, the pace and intensity of urbanization, that's really threatening in many ways. More threatening in terms of air quality, in terms of manipulations, in terms of threatening to the Mother Earth. So this is how you should look at it, the gravity of the problem. If you realize the gravity of the problem, don't stare at it. And this is something that I want to share with you. Don't stare at it. It's none of my problems. You could address it yourself. No, it's our problem. Together, if you can stand that little space, look at the way it gives happiness to. We all need peace. That's the kind of feeling that you get when you walk on that streetscape. You need space. You need places. It talks about gender sensitivity. People like me, when we walk long distance, we get tired. Are there places where we can sit down and take a deep breath at times? We all need to take that deep breath. We have to contemplate. We have to meditate, because we need that space. We need peace at the end of the game. End of the day, we need some peace. I'm not talking about, I'm just striking out the word happiness. Happiness is a thing that can come, that can go. But we all need peace. If that peace has to be achieved, the Mother Earth has to be at peace. The Mother Earth has to be at peace. So if you try to understand that symbiotic relationship between, that linkage, that bondage between Mother Earth and yourself, then your life is going to be meaningful, and that will lead you to a very meaningful journey ahead. Since I'm an architect, let me tell you this. I was one of the persons. This is, people talk about. I don't think anybody else in the world has built as many sustainable buildings that I've made in my lifetime. I think nobody in the world. I'm telling you, I know it's a very tall claim, but I don't think nobody in the world has done. The numbers are staggering. I don't want to reveal it. The numbers are very staggering. Across the world I have done. In Europe I have done. In Africa I have done. In all parts of Asia I have done. But I'm telling you, beyond all that thing, I would style myself as a very successful person in terms of implementing this habitat agenda all over the world. And I was a member of Indian contingent which went to this Habitat 2, which was held in 1996, much younger, 30 years back, at Istanbul, Turkey, as a member of the Indian delegation. The first time, we actually grouped together, the third world grouped together to work in the interest of the first world. We, from South America, from Latin America, from smaller, poorer countries of Europe, we stood together, Asia, we stood together to promote this habitat agenda. What is that habitat agenda all about? For the first time, we put in two critical terms into that. What were those terms? Adequate housing. The first world, I still remember, during the discussion, the first world, we told it. They said, that's not a concern. What do you mean by adequate housing? In India, you should realize that there are many places where we don't have clean cooking spaces. We don't have clean toilets. Unless we have clean cooking space and clean toilets, there are very critical parts of sustainability, my dear friends. When you talk about sustainable design, you need to have a clean cooking space. We need to have a clean toilet. There are millions of this country, not only in our country, millions in third world country who don't have access to clean water, clean sanitation, clean cooking space. And they are the breeding place for all the diseases. All these diseases, during COVID times, we realized that ventilation is very important. Clean air is very important. The doctor asked us to, shut down the air conditioner, open the window. We didn't have proper windows in our houses. First time we realized that ventilation is not possible. We need cross ventilation that comes into it. Where else in the world will you get such beautiful ventilation, such mild sun coming in? I worked in some very cold countries like Sweden, Norway, Scandinavian countries, where you see, Norway, as you know, is known as the land of midnight sun. The sun comes out of, I teach there, in a university there. It comes out at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. You can look straight at the sun. You get straight into the eyes of the sun because it looks like moon. We have such a bright sun. Bring the sunlight into this thing. It will actually bring sunlight into your life. That is what is meant by cross ventilation. And I put this thing. That adequacy housing is very important. So that became a critical part of world agenda. The second thing that we thought of, when the world was not really talking about the threats of urbanization, we said sustainable human settlements in an urbanizing world was the second critical intervention that we made. That became a world agenda. The crux of this is habitat agenda. You see, 30 years back, when nobody was actually talking about critically about sustainability. Sustainability goals is something, actually, as students of management, some of your students, I believe, you should actually imbibe the spirit. Each of these actually will tell you a lesson. And each of these is all of this. I'm telling all the 17 goals that you see in front of this are actually very, very critical for your line of work. Everything, people look at a brown agenda. There's another term called brown agenda. It talks about environment on one side, poverty on the second side, and development on the other. Are they contradictory to each other? Can poverty be a positive phenomenon? Everybody will look at poverty as a negative phenomenon. I look at poverty as a positive phenomenon. Why? Because poverty actually propels you forward. Poverty propels you forward. It's a catalyst. It will make you dream about a better future. So poverty can be a beautiful catalyst. It will propel populations forward. It will propel nations forward. We dare to dream high because we are poor people. So poverty also can be a catalyst. How do you bridge between poverty, development, and development? There's always this notion that it's the poor people who dump waste on the ground, waste into this thing. No. It's the rich and the powerful of this country. It's not the poor people. They are more responsible. So can we build some meaningful linkages between poverty, environment, and development is a critical path before us. Let me be very design specific because I'm an architect. Unfortunately, by qualification, I'm an architect, I'm a designer. So I will present my perceptions about sustainability, my little domain of architecture. I'm going to be very Kerala specific. I'm very particular about that. When you're in Kerala, unless you know your home ground, no point in talking about universal languages. I have gone to countries, I've gone across the world, I know the domains, I know the people's domains, I know the mindscapes, I know not only the cityscapes, I know the mindscapes, I know the landscapes. I worked in every conceivable terrains of the world. I'm telling you, my dear friends, if you know about your land, the damages that are being caused in our land through unsustainable usage of materials, technologies in my domain, and unsustainable lifestyles, can we look at this? That is why I have named it as commandments. When you say 10 commandments, it's something that will urge you forward. It's namakku Guruvachanam nu parayum. If you take those 10 commandments that unnegotiable, it cannot be negotiated. My dear friends, if you start negotiating it, there's no future for the Mother Earth. So you can't negotiate it. You have to take it as a way of life. This is what sustainability has to become a part of your life, not a way of your life, as a part of your life. It should become a part of your character. This is very important. It should be a part of your character. It should be a part of your life. Otherwise, there's no future for the world. We have a very different climate. We have very different terrain. This is something which I just wrote it as a build with the monsoon and not against it. You see, this is very critical because we went through 2 disasters very recently. Disaster is right below your footsteps, my dear friends. Kerala, just for information, let me tell you that. I don't know where you are coming from. Is more vulnerable than Middle East, Northeast. Kerala lies in a stretch which is more vulnerable than the Northeast. It's more vulnerable than some of the, Latur, my friend from Maharashtra will vouch for that. Latur earthquake happened at a zone which is less vulnerable than Kerala. The whole of Kerala, from Kasaragod to Parachala, it lies in a place which is less vulnerable. Bhuj, the earthquake happened in Gujarat. It lies in a place which is less vulnerable. Kerala, from Kasaragod to Parachala, if you look at the disaster hazard map prepared by Government of India, you will realize that there is a high probability of disasters in Kerala. We have to be aware of that. Why do disasters happen? We never analyze that. We never learn from our mistakes. We never learn from that. That's what I was sharing with some of the office bearers, when we start talking about Wayanad. Wayanad, it was not landslide, my dear friends. I still oppose to that view. It's not just no landslide. Why we have to understand, the Mother Earth as a whole. Wayanad has got a very fragile geological profile. The landscape of Wayanad is very fragile in many ways. When you change the agricultural pattern, when you start bringing up the quarries, it's going to be disaster. It's not landslide, my dear friend. This phenomenon is called, we lose the Mother Earth completely. That's what happened in Mundakai, Churalmala, Puttumala, Kavalappara. Last 3-4 years we saw it. Soil pipe. When you touch the Mother Earth, when you make it more fragile, our Mother Earth is fragile, my dear friends. It has to be treated with such passion and compassion. When you don't do that, Mother Earth will come back on you. And that's why I'm telling you, disaster is at our footsteps. You have to get prepared for that. Whatever interventions that you're going to make in future has to be disaster mitigant. You should realize that disaster is at your doorsteps, and you get prepared for that. And who are the people who are making disasters? As a fraternity people, I should tell you that it's me, especially as an architect, not you probably. We, the people who are responsible for built-up environment, we are primarily responsible for the climate change, because I don't want to qualify that statement more, but I should tell you that we are more responsible, primarily responsible. I'm making a very, very responsible statement. I have my statistics with me. I make this brutal statement because I know that I'm a part of a fraternity causing maximum damage by using unsustainable materials, unsustainable building technologies in a beautiful place called Kerala. That's why. So you live with the reality. You live with the physical climate. How to harness the positives of physical climate and make it into a living space. Make it into buildings. When you make multi-storied buildings, when you make anything in Kerala, you have to have that physical climate factor, integrated into the design domain, so that it becomes very beautiful. Looking at the sun shine, looking at the sun orientation, wind path. That is how we used to start learning architecture. We used to start learn architecture, look at the sun path, looking at the wind path, and that's looking at the orientation, and that's how I started our design. But that domain is completely gone now. Let the land decide the architecture. Kerala is a beautiful land, and we have midlands. This is an engineering college, which I built probably 30 years back in Munnar. This is Munnar Engineering College. It is a hill terrain. And how do you make institutional buildings in a hill terrain? I still believe in a dictum which, the father of organic architecture who said, Frank Lloyd Wright, he said, buildings should not be on a mountain. He said, buildings should be off a mountain. Where else can you find such a rugged terrain like Kerala? We have midlands, we have a long coastal line, we have mountains. When you build buildings on a mountain, it should not stand on a mountain. It should stand off the mountain. There are many examples for that. This is organic architecture. By organic architecture, you are touching many critical points of eco-sensitivity. You are talking about sustainability. You are talking about managing earth well. cost efficiency, eco sensitivity, energy efficiency, rest of it gets cancelled. So that's why I call, let the land decide the domain of architecture. We have such beautiful rugged land. It's God given. You know, where else can we get such a land? It's God given. Let's enjoy our land. But let us not destroy the profile. If you destroy the profile, the earth is going to come back. The nature is going to come back with revenge. And the nature is, I was talking about this particular building. This particular building was lifted up. You see? Lifted up. Using mechanical device, it was lifted up. You cannot go against nature. You cannot go against the nature. Nature will teach you. In course of time, nature will teach you very important lesson. So go with the nature. Go with the monsoons. Go with the nature and make beautiful expressions of architecture. And where else can we, you know, incidentally, he didn't tell you that. I also happen to be the chairman of Vastu Vidya Gurukulam under Cultural Department of Government of Kerala. We are trying to rewrite the traditional, integrating traditional wisdom into architecture. We are looking at indigenous architecture. We are looking at, you know, the traditional legacy of traditional history, which we should, as Malayalis, should take real, you know, pride in. Just look at the picture, the beautiful picture. It's not only the aesthetics, it's functional, these things. Look at the functional. You know, look at the way architecture has evolved. Look at that roof. You know, that gable and that you see on this thing. It's not for beauty, my dear friends. It's for ventilation. Why did we have that sloping roof? We have been living with monsoons. So this was a ready-made answer for monsoons. Sloping roofs, will take the, you know, you can run the water along the slopes. Look at the slopes. It will never get stagnated. Look at the veranda, which would always, this is how we actually developed our architecture. Looking at traditional wisdom, translating it into a language which talks about coziness, happiness, etc., etc. Look at the beautiful interiors of this thing. Look at the fenestrations. Look at the vocabulary. Look at the aesthetic appeal. Look at the, you know, in architecture we qualify it with various uses. In a contrast, we talk about symphony, we talk about rhythm, we talk about balance, we talk about unity. Look at this beauty. It incorporates all that. It looks beautiful because it incorporates all the qualities, principles of architecture that we are talking about. Beauty, sustainability, if everything can go together. And use of Kerala's bio, actually the picture that you see on the left is on my own office with a 6-storied building in earth. 6-storied building, earth. Not a column structure, no columns in between. But it's a 6-storied building in earth. All the things, walls that you see on a very narrow strip of land, the walls are all mud walls. I have plastered using lime because I needed some light. Look at the floor, look at all the material vocabulary. You know, if you can integrate aesthetics, if you can actually project aesthetics into architecture, use of Kerala, let me tell you that. One of the most beautiful vocabularies of building materials are here, down our earth. I'm talking about Alappuzha, where we have the richest, I'm telling you, richest lime deposit in the world. 15 feet deep, beautiful, buildable lime is there beneath our Lempenat backwater, just below that. When I was a young student, when I used to go to Kumaragam, I could see a lot of poor people going to the lake, picking up the shells, bringing it on the shore, grinding it, chakilati it, grinding it, and then taking kalavandila, taking it to the vendor. That actually taught strengthening of local economy. When you use local materials, what happens is you're actually creating, in management parlor, let me tell you, you're creating local opportunities. Entrepreneur, that's a new word, you know. Entrepreneur opportunities. If you can develop a local material and add some values to lime. You know, lime has got such beautiful properties. Almost all the engineering properties of cement is there in lime. Lime sheen is, when you actually, you don't have to put putty on the walls. When you have lime plaster, you can actually put your cheeks against that. It's so smooth. The sheen is very good. But lime has got a problem. That is where the technology and science should come in. Lime can flake off after some time. Lime can flake off. Add a bit of cement. Add a bit of cement to that. And then the flaking property will change. That is what the technology is all about. That's the legacy of Kerala. So that is why I've been increasingly talking about using biomass material in Kerala. In Northeast, you can use your bamboo, where else? I've built across the world. That's why I'm telling you, wherever I go, when I go to Rajasthan, that is where I built the biggest building in the world, mud building in the world, Bangladesh. Brahmaputra Plains, Bangladesh, in outskirts of Dhaka. I built a building the largest earth building in the contemporary world, measuring around 600,000 square feet. Can you believe it? 600,000 square feet in mud. That still remains as a testimony of mud architecture, earth architecture, built purely out of earth. Earth in the floodplains of Brahmaputra, yes. Floodplain, it will look yellow to you, but that's the color of mud there. We get reddish brown earth here, there you get pale yellow earth there. But with that, with the authentication, validation of the civil engineering department in Dhaka University, we could build that. Several stories. Mud, my own office building. Sometime when you, in future, when you pass through Trivandrum, please come down to my house and my visiting, where, I used earth, not a sensuous material. I'm telling you, I myself is a mason. Beyond the mantle of a garb of an architect and engineer, I work with my hands. That is why I'm talking with such conviction, I know the versatility of the material. I know the versatility of the material because I work with my hands. I know the strength of the material. I know the plasticity of the material. I know the durability of the material. I know the life of the material because I have worked with my hands. When I shake hands with you, I know I can immediately tell you whether the relationship is going to, the warmth of the shake hand. That will reveal a lot of things. The warmth when you go to Air India flights, they give namaste, look at the other way, say namaste. When you say namaste, you have to touch your heart and tell, this is the way I greet you. It has to touch you. So this is why I'm telling you, whatever I'm going to tell you has to be, everything has to be not only passion, with compassion if you don't take it. Kerala has such beautiful building materials. One of the most beautiful, richest vocabularies of building materials and capabilities. Where else in the world such, I'm telling you, nowhere in the world, I'm telling you, I'm making a tall statement, nowhere in the world you'll get such beautiful masonry work, where you'll get such beautiful carpenters. We have the richest legacy of carpentry work. We have the richest legacy of masonry work. Highest quality of masonry work. We don't have the machines. But I'm telling you with such conviction, they're the best masons. They do it, why they do it like a way of worship. They do it like a worship. That's the thing that they give to God. As a worship. You do it whatever domain you're working. If you do that with passion and such kind of dedication, then magic will come out of it. And, I don't want to talk much about it. You're increasingly talking about cooler houses, cooler interiors and things like that. Just look at this. Courtyards. We had that, legacy. Courtyards and wider verandas. That's first line of cooling. Sloping roofs that come out. It will never actually heat up the front wall. We have lost that legacy, my dear friends. We have lost that legacy. It was there. It was evolved. Traditional architecture, I'm telling you, is 100,000 years of research and development. People's understanding about it. People have gone through the experiences. That's how the shapes have come. That's how all these courtyards, they are beautiful ventilators, my dear friends. Air, when it gets heated up, it goes up. Unless they find a vent outside, it will remain there. It will remain there, it will stagnant. It will start affecting your lungs. When you have a courtyard inside the house, air will go out. As simple as that. It will come from one side and go out the other way. Where else we have such legacy? Learn from the traditions, learn from the people, learn from people's wisdom. And we have many answers for that. How do you design, these all my buildings, my dear friends, how do you design monsoon-ready roofs? Can we design it like that? Sometimes we have to have flat roofs. But when you have flat roofs, as an architect, as an engineer, I'm telling you, you should be done with care. Some detailing will have to be there. Water should not get stagnant on this thing. Concrete is not waterproof as you think. Concrete is an admixture of soft aggregate, coarse aggregate and cement. It can leak. In engineering parlor, it can leak. But we make it waterproof by adding adhesive, a lot of admixtures are there, waterproofing agents are there. We plaster it over. That's how we make it waterproof. The world over, concrete roofs are leaking, my dear friends. The most thriving industry in the world is the industry of damp-proofing agents, all these admixtures, plasticizers, waterproofing agents and things like that. But actually when you design well, can we have, in Kerala, I'm talking about Kerala, can we have monsoon-ready roofs? It need not be, I'm telling you once again, it need not be sloping roofs. It can be flat roofs. But flat roofs will have to be done with care and precision. So the slopes are there. Invisible water should not get stacked in the middle of these things. For that, we use very simple techniques. I'm telling you, very simple techniques. When you do the propping, you might consider me as an outdated architect, but I still do that. I make the central prop little higher, so that when you make the central prop little higher, probably half an inch higher, when you shoot the shuttering, if you make the central position, it will naturally go to the sides. And from there, if you have nice vents, if you can design the roof well, water will go out. And then your the leakage, the dampness, everything will get. And this is something very important, the indoor air quality. The humidity is very important. We have a very high relative humidity, especially in Kochi, in Kozhikode, in Trivandrum. We are often talking about relative humidity of 90% plus. Relative humidity of that's a bad deterrent. You have to blow it away. You have to blow it away. If you inhale, that's why I'm talking about compromising indoor air quality of this particular room, because this is dangerous for our human health. That we have to blow it away. How do you blow it away? ഞാൻ എപ്പോഴും പറയും കാക്കയെ പോലാണ് കാറ്റ്. You call them in, it will come in. There's no magic in that. When you have cross ventilation, if you have all the habitable rooms should have windows on two sides. If you have windows on to open it out. When I'm driving through the entire length of Kerala, I see only closed doors and windows. Nobody opens the windows. It's frightening. In my house, which I built around very late in my life, I built my house around 12 years back. And from that day, I started living in. I never closed my windows. I never closed my windows. And now I know that probably I may not be able to close my windows again, because they may have warped. I've never closed my windows, so they may have warped, and I'll find it probably, it's all, recycled, wooden, or indoor air quality, wooden, all. And, this warping can come. Warping can, I don't mind, because I want windows to bring in air. I want windows to bring in, I have to look out. Windows have two primary functions. I want to look out. When I look out to the nature, it cools me down. My inner heat gets cooled. My inner heat gets cooled when I look at nature. Trees will give me such happiness. If you can actually imbibe that spirit, then it becomes very beautiful. Mold is a very dangerous this thing, especially in damp climate. Ernakulam, Cochin. Cochin is a city, actually. I make a very threatening statement. It's a city floating on sewage. Do you know that? Kochi is a city, actually, which is floating on sewage. Sewage, I'm telling you, because I had a very rare opportunity of working in GCDA for a few months, for a few months. I was staying in a CD lodge called Mada Lodge, somewhere near Kada. I don't see that because the entire landscape has changed, near the GCDA, opposite GCDA building. Panampilly Nagar was not there. It was a big swamp. Girinagar was not there. It was another big swamp. The places around Kadamandara, they were all marshy, this thing. And this DCDA building was coming up. I didn't have the money, so I was staying opposite a CD lodge. I left that job because I couldn't fight with the mosquitoes. They would come like this, big mosquitoes. I often thought they will take me away, Such big mosquitoes. Those days, no air conditioner. I can't sleep under mosquito nets. I have a problem. I feel imprisoned, staying under a mosquito net. So I stayed there for 15, 20 days. I got into middle management position. At a very young age, I didn't have choices. I got into middle management as an assistant architect, which actually in the grade of assistant executive engineer when I spent 20s. I startly stayed there for when Paul P. Mani was the chairman. And, 15 days are available. So what I'm trying to tell is these molds are very threatening, life-threatening, this thing. If you see black patches on the walls, that means mold is there. Ventilation is very critical. And Kerala, we have many methods instead of air conditioning. Why I'm not talking about banning air conditioning, but we have many natural methods wherein we can, we have to make not only the houses, the office spaces, we have to make it, now the world is changing. I go to many corporate office in Microsoft, wherever I go, I see more green spaces around. I see people can walk out someplace where they can stay there for 5 minutes, look at the nature. They have beautiful forest, mini forest at the 8th floor level. Oh, when you connect it to that, you won't get bored. It will give you a lot of energy back. You'll go for long hours, go out for 5 minutes, take a deep breath. That's what I want to tell you. Take a deep breath, look at the nature. Nature has got a huge healing property. Integrate, this is my own house, my dear friends. How do you integrate forms into nature? The shape that I had you know, when I started building this, I was always fascinated with an architect called, Egyptian architect called Hassan Fatih. We call him as the poor man's architect, you know, Hassan Fatih. He always used to do things with, this is actually, this is an African, it's called Nubian vault. And another cultural motif, you know, being an architect, I was looking at, you know, the nest of these ants, you know, the molds, you know, ant molds like that. You know, നമ്മുടെ ഈ ചെതൽപ്പുറ്റുണ്ടല്ലോ, ant molds, ant hills. I was really, as an architect, when I was exploring shapes, and this is something which remained very deeply etched in my heart, ant hill. And I took that image. Ant hills are not possible because it goes into sharp pyramids. In a house, that's not possible. So what I did was, I cut off this thing, and it became like that. It emerges from the earth, it goes back to the earth. You know, it talks with life's journey. It emerges from the earth, and all the roofs that you say, no steel, no cement. During you know, the flood season, actually water came into my house. I had to evacuate my house. Water came up to 7 feet. Me and my wife is a short woman. We had to run for life. It suddenly came in. I had to run for life. Nothing happened to this building. So it's a big testimony of technology also. That mud can also stand. Mud is also disaster resistant. Mud will not melt like chocolate. So this stands. And why I find pleasure in looking at it, it doesn't stand as a threat. It cools your senses. Not panchbhutangal. It cools your, when it, I feel, I mean, it may not be your idea. Maybe you are thinking it is a crazy building. But I feel very happy living there. Because I'm at peace with nature. Inside, you come to my house. It's all this. It's all nature. I have trees in my library. In my inside library, I have trees around. I sit there. I look at Buddha. Siddhartha is the name of the bear. Siddhartha is all over. Siddhartha is all over because he was always searching for answers. I'm also a person searching for answers. How do you integrate your dreams into such built-up forms is something that I will just leave it with you. And another thing that I want to leave with you when I talk about sustainability, water is going to be very, very critical. We have not thought about it. You must have heard the English poet who said, water, water everywhere. But the present position is, we don't have a drop to drink. When I was a school student, I used to wonder when I started traveling in the trains, how could you sell packaged water? How could you sell packaged water? You know, how could you sell water in Kerala? Kerala was so water-rich, my dear friends. We had flowing 41 rivers which actually enriched our life. We have seen full rivers. People of my age have seen full rivers. Wherever you go, Moattura, all these, right from Kasaragod to Trivandrum, I traveled, and everywhere I saw full rivers. Paradapura was not like the Kandanirpura that we see now. It was full, overflowing. It was full and overflowing. But what's happening now? All the rivers, all the 41 rivers of this country, of the state, are on certain deathbed. All the 41 rivers are on certain deathbed. Look at every river. Look at Periyar, look at Paradapura, look at Achengovilar, Kerala, in Trivandrum, we have Karamaniyar, Killiyar, everything is on the, they are all become Kalindi, black colored, Kalindi water. Just look at the rivulet that you have on the roadside, rivulet. It's not greenish water, it's not blue water, it's black water, unfortunately. They are trying to clean it up, well and good, at least it looks clean now. But it's black water, my dear. Black is dirt. Black is dirt. We need clean water to survival. So water is going to be, when we have to harvest every drop of water that falls into Mother Earth. We have to recharge our, replenish our water, depleting water sources. Wastewater is huge, this thing. People talk about sewage discharge. I should tell you a figure. I just leave it with that. Can that be converted into potable water? Sewage water that comes out of the toilet, can it be turned into the quality of potable water? I'm making a very threatening statement to most of you. If actually sewage water, if it travels 15 meters, 15 meters is 50 feet through the Mother Earth, it acquires the quality of potable water, good for consumption, good for human consumption. I'm telling you, sewage water, if it travels through Mother Earth for 15 meters, it's not me. It's World Health Organization's directive. The polluted water, if it travels in the Mother Earth for 15 meters, 50 feet, it actually acquires the quality of potable water. All these, there are many simple methods. You look at the Google and look at DWAT, DWAT. There are several these things. Water reads by for puring this thing. Clean energy. Energy is again is going to be very precious. This thing. You're wasting energy using. You see, look at this hall. We have put on so many lights, so many this thing. Do we really need it? We need energy to move this country. This is very critical. We need energy to move this country. We need energy to develop this country. But at our level, at domestic level, at institutional level, if we cut down one, we could take off one switch. If we take off one, we will, you put one light off, it's a definite saving for the country. Definite saving for the country. Daylight. We have such bright daylight. Why are you using lights all over? This is why I'm inviting them out. I don't put the fans on. I don't put the lights on in my office. I also got some kind of a corporate office. We talk about employing 100 people. We never put the lights on. We never put the fans on. Come to me. This is my life. This is what I call by sustainability. This is നേർസാക്ഷ്യമാണ്. നിങ്ങൾ വന്ന് അനുഭവിക്കൂ. You come and feel experience the building, experience the properties of mud. This is why I'm extolling the virtues of mud. Because in insulating, we need insulating materials. We need insulating technology. That will really look at many things that are threatening the world now. And wherever you build houses, so most of you are very successful managers now. Why can't we leave 40% of the land for building up some ecosystems around you? A place to walk around the house. This is also a very successful, I don't want to name that person who built this house, very successful manager, entrepreneur, very successful entrepreneur, working in a foreign MNC, that's how you call it, foreign MNC, successful, who wanted a place in her little place where she wanted a small house with a lot of green space around. This is not a big land, my dear friend. This is just 6 cents of land. 6 cents of land and building, no pavings, no cement, no walkways and trees all around and very organic shapes which actually please the earth. When you look at this building, I feel very good about it. When I look at the building, I feel very good about it. I don't know what your feeling is, but I feel very happy. I feel ecstatic. In fact, when I want to sit, that's a courtyard where you see leaves, that leaf motif. When you sit there, you actually get into a meditative mood. That is what we want. ഞാൻ വീടുകളെ ഡിസൈൻ ചെയ്യുമ്പോൾ ഞാൻ പറയാറുണ്ട് അമ്മയുടെ മടിത്തട്ട് പോലെ ഇറ്റ് ഷുഡ് ബി ലൈക്ക് എ ലാപ്പ് ഓഫ് യുവർ മദർ ദ അൾട്ടിമേറ്റ് അബോർഡ് ഓഫ് പീസ് ഈസ് യുവർ മദേഴ്സ് ലാപ്പ് ഇഫ് യു ക്യാൻ കം ബാക്ക് ടു ദാറ്റ് ഇഫ് യു ക്യാൻ ഡിസൈൻ യുവർ ഹാബിറ്റാറ്റ്സ് ആസ് യുവർ മദേഴ്സ് ഓൺ ലാപ്പ് വേർ യു ഗെറ്റ് പീസ് യു ക്യാൻ ബി അറ്റ് പീസ് വിത്ത് യു പീസ് വിത്ത് ദ വേൾഡ് then nothing like having a beautiful house. These all are, reuse, recycle, renew, retrofit. I showed a building there. What is that building? That is a material collection center facility, being promoted by government of Kerala. That building is all waste material. That building is all talking about waste material, recycled steel, recycles, boards recycled, construction debris turned into building material block. Everything that about that building talks about the gender sensitive. It talks about inclusive design. These are the ladies who pick up Harida Sena, as we call them. They also need dignity of life. They are the people who pick up rags from all these things. They pick up words. We believe that we always talk about it. We believe that waste is wealth. But we don't take it to the extreme forms. If we can make a very livable, a very lovable workspace using this waste material, why can't you extol these things? When you see this, you feel happy. This is the place. They could go and tell the world, look, your mother is working there. Haridasena Karmangam, they can tell their children, your mother is working there. Children will come, play around this thing. They can come. Instead of going to class, they can play around this place. No smell, nothing. You can segregate the waste. They have gender sensitive. They have proper toilets, proper ventilation. All that, and the building itself became an expression of resistance. When the building itself became a resistance of expression, you are talking about waste management, you are talking recycling, you are talking reusing, you are talking retrofitting materials. All these are very important. I am telling you, one major danger the Kerala as a state is facing. All along the road you see the old buildings. They are being demolished because they don't look beautiful. They don't look beautiful. Probably they have, it doesn't suit your lifestyle. They have smaller rooms. But an architect with conviction can come to you and advise you on retrieving, on retrofitting the building. Retrofitting means you can make the building bigger to your this thing by probably breaking up one wall, but retain that building. Because it's somebody's blood, sweat and tears. Your father and mother must have toiled hard to make that building. And it also talks about different domain. It talks about retrofitting, talks about a very important domain of sustainability. It talks about resource efficiency. We need a lot of resources to build our houses. If you can save some bit of this thing by looking at resource efficiency, this should be a national agenda, my dear friends. Instead of some beautiful buildings are being demolished in the name of strength, in the name of beauty, if you can retain them and make it your taste. Bring in big windows, have them bring in a courtyard in, and a creative architect can all do that magic. But you need that magic. The world needs that magic, my dear friends. Because by demolishing buildings, you're not only demolishing dreams of an older generation, you're talking about wastage of material. Concrete debris is a big threat to the world, my dear friends. We're not talking about waste. 40% of the waste that's being generated in this country, we are talking about building debris collections. We have to remove that. We have to make it into recycle, reuse into building materials. By doing that, you are giving a big social message. Local is the mantra for me. Local. Local material, local technology, local capability. This is why I always talk against prefabrication material, because I believe in Kerala. I believe in local architecture. I think we have the legacy, we have the beauty, we have the vocabulary. Why are you looking at the other contemporary kind of architecture to face this? Local is the mantra. If you are talking about local, it was Mahatma Gandhi. 1920s he said, source your materials from 5 kilometers radius of the proposed building. Source the building materials from 5 kilometers radius of the proposed building. By doing that, he was talking about Ramarajya. He was talking about Swaraj. He was talking about the essence of freedom. What did it mean? At that time, nobody understood it. It meant energy efficiency. It meant eco-sensitivity. It meant cost efficiency. These are our primary pillars of sustainability, my dear friend. So this is what you should imbibe in your life. Wherever you go, you believe in India, believe in Kerala, believe in our legacy, believe in our mother earth, and the world will become much more beautiful in the days to come. Design for communities. What's the time now? What is the time? 7:30? 7:30 already. I'll just, this thing now, I'll cut it short, but I want to tell you a story before I go. What is sustainability all about? Those are part of if I tell you the figure, the magnitude, I'm sure you will not believe it. This is the largest social housing project ever undertaken in the contemporary world. 95,000 houses that I built for Sri Lankan people in the northwestern and northeastern provinces of Sri Lanka. You must have heard of Battikola, Tringomali, Jaffna, and the rest of it. I built 95,000 houses, all using local materials. You see the old traditional Sri Lankan architecture. This project that I did after tsunami, 2004-05, when I built for the traditional fishermen, inland fishermen, near Karunagapalli. That's the only area that was hit during tsunami. A disaster, I've been walking with disaster right from Haiti in South America to Karunagapalli. I worked in all possible disasters that have happened after 1990. So all the disasters that has happened in the world, I've been there. I've been leading missions in Maldives, in Indonesia, in Thailand, in Nepal, even in man-made disasters. I was the mission chief in Palestine, where human man-made disasters happening. I just want to show you the picture on the right. That's again the largest social housing project that has ever been undertaken. Talk about tribal resettlement. Every other tribal settlement has tribal resettlement projects. I made head news. Why? Narmada Andolan movement came. Then Tehri Dam movement came. It became national, international headline because tribal hamlets were being demolished in the name of development. And they wanted to drive them out. Slums, I'm talking it's a worn out word. You can't use that word anymore. In Latin America, slums are called they are not islands of misery. In Latin America, slums are favelas. Favelas are islands of hope, my dear friends. They are poor people's settlements. You can't call them slums. Slums have a very different connotation. I'm telling you, favelas are islands of hope. This is why I call poverty as a catalyst. This particular building, It was a tribal rehabilitation project. One night, I was sleeping. One lady calls me and tells me that Shankar, I have a very important project for you, and can you come down and do it? 11 o'clock I was sleeping. This lady comes online. I could beautiful accent of English, and she was asking me whether. I said, why me of all the people? She said, somebody told her that you're the only person in India who could do it. Holding hands with this is a very sensitive area, Singrauli, Madhya Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh border. There are huge tribal population there, and they were taking tribal communities out in the name of development. Tatas were there, Birlas were there, JPs were there, Reliance, and they were later players. All these people, big time people, were trying to exploit minerals and metals from that particular area. They were all magnesium, potassium. You talk about the minerals and minerals, they were all there in coal mines were there in Singrauli, and I was asked to go in. This lady, why me, I asked. She said, why me? I've heard that you have worked with communities, poor communities, marginalized communities, very sensitive area. Naxalites are ruling that area. When I heard the name Naxalites, it actually lightened me up, because I had already been, politically aligned with them, one thing. Secondly, I've been working in Bastar, which is one of the most sensitive areas when Naxal movements are there. In Chhattisgarh, I've actually made a part of the new capital city that has come up in Chhattisgarh, Naya Raipur. I made a Haridas Thali, which is a green segment of that particular Naya Raipur. Here I was called in, and I make the story very short because of lack of time. This lady was adamant, and she said, Shankar, you go ahead. You make a kind of this thing. You go to the land, I'll make all the arrangement. Singrauli is not connected. You have to go to Varanasi. Either from Mumbai, you have to Trivandrum, go to Mumbai. From there, you go to Varanasi. And from there, you have to take a 9 hours ride on a rickety road. Or else you could go to Delhi, Lucknow, and again take a long ride to Singrauli. It's on the border of the, not connected. It's the actually energy capital of India. And I had to go there. She gave me the tickets, and I went there, all the way to Singrauli. Singrauli district was just being formed. I was a very young, probably 30 years old collector. I was mandated to meet the collector. He said he would make the arrangement, local arrangement, government arrangement, take me to the site. I said to the lady who called me that I want to see the land, that I want to see the people who are going to be evacuated. When you design something for the community, you have to hold their hands. You have to understand the lifestyle. Madhya Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh, I was completely unaware of the tribal setup. I was unaware of the land profile. I was unaware of the lifestyle. So I want to see them so that I could be with them and I could understand them and I could design that. I went all the way to this thing, rugged terrain. I went all the way to Singrauli. I went all the way, and the young collector said, Shankar, there's no way you could go there. He said, there's a lot of land order issues. Because all the rehabilitation projects have failed. People are, agitating. They didn't want to go into this thing because they said it's alien to them. The design is alien. It didn't meet their requirements. It's habitat. You are taking you away from your homeland, hinterland. That's very precious. Your little homeland. If you take them away, drive them away, you have to do it very sensitively. I went there, and then the tribal driver who was listening to my conversation. I can't speak Hindi, so he was listening to my conversation. He said, "Main aapke saath aavunga." He said in broken Hindi. He said he will come with me, and he said, "Please, don't use the government board. Instead, I will take a rickety jeep and take you down to the rugged terrain." The first thing that I saw in the terrain was an animal, a bakri, an animal, a fully grown animal, and an old person, Bhutta Admi, old person, not only sleeping together, they were hugging each other and snoring away to glory. Can you imagine? Such a cultural shock for me. An animal and a man, an old tribal man, and a fully grown goat, bakri, holding each other, not only hugging each other, snoring away to glory. That means they were at peace with each other. I saw that. It was a cultural shock for me. This is a very strange sight for me. Man and animal sleeping together in the same kattil. It's a strange sight for me. He said, this is the custom here. Then he took me next room. There was a small statue. It's not a living animal. There was a cow and a calf sleeping there peacefully. They had a room with a view, even for the animals, the tribal culture. I took them into my mental landscape. I took that site in a mental landscape. I was driving back. I saw a lot of ladies, crouching around a fire. They were trying to pick up some leaves and put it into some water. They boiling water. Ladies, all these colorful, tribal dresses, saris. They didn't have blouses, but colorful wrapped around saris. They were crouching around on a kacha road. They were crouching around and boiling some water. They were picking up some. I came down. I've always worked with the communities. So I got down and asked them, what is happening here? And the driver was saying, they were actually picking up leaves of mahua. Mahua is an intoxicant. Mahua flowers, like opium. They were putting that opium into water, and they were kind of brewing up some kind of a potion, which probably could be used as a liquor. John Abraham was my friend, who always said, drinking is not my habit, it's my character. John Abraham, the old filmmaker, he said, drinking is my character. So I was seeing them, and everybody looks upon these kind of habits as a bad habit, isn't it? But people without tomorrows, people who are traumatized, they take it as a way to freedom. It probably will give them peace. I took that into my mental landscape. I took that site into my architectural landscape and took it home. Then I was called to Mumbai. And this lady, I will name her later, very familiar to you in the corporate parlors. She is one of the doyens of Indian industry. She said, you go and meet our people in Mumbai. I went there in this dress, I don't wear coats and shoes. I don't wear these coats and things like that. So I went in the dress to the corporate headquarters. I was waiting. They said 10:30. I was there at 10:30. But people were coming and going. They didn't recognize me as I was sitting there. After 1 hour, I realized that they were actually looking for me. I was already there. Then, they asked me to start the presentation. I talked about community participation. I talked about typology of designs. I talked about menu of designs. I had carried some of them, I had 100 menus for them to see. For one person house, for two person house, a person for a widow, a house for a widow, house for a disabled person, Bhuta Atmi ke liye. I had different typologies houses, 100 different typologies of houses. And I said, I've seen these things, and I've seen the community, I've seen the landscape, I've designed something for them. But corporate parlors, they said, nothing doing. You give them one type plan, we will implement it. Just give us one plan. And the lady said, give us one plan. I said, I said, nahi kar sakta hai. I said, this is not the way to do it. When you do for a community, you're not going to rebuild a house. You're going to rebuild a life. I said with such conviction, because the mandate was given to me by the doyen of Indian industry. I said, I don't want to rebuild a house. I don't want to build houses for them. I want to rebuild their house. They're traumatized people. So the meeting went to a disaster. They didn't pull me out, but before they checked me out, they called the doyen, because she's the person who was responsible for my arrival. The doyen said, Shankar is going to do that project. You don't have a say in that. I've called Shankar, I've invited him in, and give him all the money he wants. He will do the project for us, and we want that to be an international model of development. She gave me the freedom. I went back. What I did was, I couldn't carry this big model in a flight. So what I did was, I took a train. From Trivandrum, I took a train all the way to Varanasi. I took a mini lorry to carry my model to the community. And there communities had gathered. 1,000 people had gathered. People sitting on the ground, completely controlled by Naxalites, bare-chested Naxalites. Bullet necklace on these things, khaki knickers, worn by Kaya, this thing, no belt and things like that. They were gun-throating, Naxalites were controlling this. And I started talking to them. There was this translator with me, and he was asking me, they were asking me many questions. With my broken Hindi, I said, yahan nahane ke jagah hai. This is a place to bath. Yahan sone ka jagah hai. This is a place to sleep. And I had this model, I was showing them, this is a place to sleep. And then this Naxalite leader, who was controlled, they didn't want this project to come up, because every other project was socially insensitive. And then he stood up and said, Hamara janvaron ke liye jagah kahan hai? In such coarse voice, they asked me, Hamara janvaron ke liye jagah hai? I said, yahan hai. And then I turned my model. This is a small model of a cow at a calf sleeping peacefully in that room. That's what I call sensitive design. And then I went on to build that hamlet, 15,000 houses, and all built in rugged this thing. You know, it's a big land, 15 acres, 1,500 acres of land, 15,000 houses. I spent 3 years of my life there, you know, building with them, living with the communities, finally finished. The Prime Minister Manmohan Singh came, they inaugurated these things. I not only built houses, my dear friends, I built markets, I built schools, I made creches, I made local temples, I made all those things. I made threshing grounds, I made livelihood opportunities, I made harvesting grounds. I even made a beautiful crematorium for them. Most than that, because the world started talking about rainwater harvesting, in a water scarce area called, landlocked area called Singaroli, I created a 7-acre big lake for the children to play, take the bath. Even the animals could come there and take the bath. And the 7-acre large lake in a very water scarce area. I did all that thing, even a crematorium for the, you know, ceremonious exit from the world. I did all that thing. Then inauguration came. I was actually called back to stay back. You took me to various places. They showered me with pedas and, you know, panies, and, you know, everywhere I was showered with love, because, you know, I was so close to the community. They knew here is a person who understood our language, although a person who couldn't speak Hindi could come to us to our rescue. And I built beautiful houses for them. And all the dreams were translated. On the edge of in the compound wall, little compound wall there, had a ledge. The ladies could still come there, boil the leaves picked up from the rural area, and take this liquid. And Aram says, I had a sleeping ledge for them to sleep in the afternoon. So I met all their physical, metaphysical requirements, so that, you know, they became very happy. You know, when you build a house, you're always looking to make a domain of happiness, a heaven of happiness. That's what an architect should do. I made all that thing, and I was leaving. It was almost night time. The nearest semblance of a urban facility was 17 kilometers away, a place called Renukut. You can Google and find out where Renukut is. The nearest semblance of a civilization, where had toilets and things like that. So I had to go back to Renukut to catch my next flight to Trivandrum. As I was going back, they held me till dusk. It was falling night, and I was asked to look back. The whole mountain, my dear friends. That moment was a magical moment in my life. I never, when I was climbing up the stairs of Rashtrapati Bhavan to receive my Padma Shri, my happiness was limited, because, you know, it was like a podichor that you get on this thing. You know, I'd been traveling this hard journey for a long time. You know, karmanya vadhigaraste ma phaleshu kadena, you will get rewarded for your hard work. Sometime it will. But this particular precious moment, I will not forget, because I still hold it very close to my heart because of the memories that it leaves. The whole mountain. I don't know whether you've seen, I think it was Yatra, where Shobana and Mammootty were there. Shobana was waiting for Mammootty to come out from the jail. I think it was something, a film called Yatra. I don't remember the name. Memory is failing. And Mammootty was coming back it was a dream sequence where Shobana was waiting. The whole mountain was lit up with diyas. And the Sarpanch of the Gram Mukhian told me that this is a light salute. We can't give you anything in return, you know. All our love, all our affection. They knew that I would never come back to that land, you know. 15,000 houses, they knew that I was leaving the place for good. I would never come back to this land, because this is not on my route. This is a part of my life, you know. When I was going back, they were bidding goodbye to me. You know, they are giving goodbye to me. They knew. When I looked back, it was a dark night, and the whole mountain was lit up with diyas. Diyas, you know, that's a light salute. The ultimate affection and trust that you have. This is what sustainability is all about. This is where I want to start and end this thing. It's not about the planet. It's about the people, my dear friends. Sustainability is not about the people. You have to take people with that. If you don't understand the symbiotics between man and the nature, if you don't understand the symbiotic relation between the planet and the people, then your way is going to be very dark, my dear friends. Realize that? Make the world, make the earth, make the world that you are going to habit. You leave that world. നമ്മൾ പണ്ട് പറയാറില്ലേ, നമ്മുടെ എത്ര കാരുണ്യത്തോടെ നമ്മുടെ പൂർവികർ ഈ ഭൂമി നമ്മുടെ കയ്യിൽ തന്നുവോ, അതേ ജാഗ്രതയോടെ, അതേ കരുതലോടുകൂടി ഈ ഭൂമിയെ അടുത്ത തലമുറയ്ക്ക് കൈമാറേണ്ടത്. ഇറ്റ്സ് അവർ ഡ്യൂട്ടി. ദാറ്റ്സ് ദി ബേസിക് ഡെഫിനിഷൻ ഓഫ് സസ്റ്റൈനബിൾ ഡെവലപ്മെൻറ്റ്. The earth that we inherit, without hurting the mother earth, Can we transfer it to the next generation without exploiting it? They also need resources. They have to have happiness. They have to have peace. To keep that domain happy and peaceful, let us all work together and keep this world a much beautiful experience. Thank you very much for recognizing me.
The name of that lady, corporate lady.
Rajashree Birla. Rajashree Birla of Birla family.
Since we don't have much time left, maybe we'll have one question. Before that, I would like to recognize Mr. Muhammad Umar bin Pierre Mohammed from Malaysia. This is Vandana Mukhopadhyaya, two distinguished guests to this InsightX session. Please be recognized. Thank you for coming. Maybe we'll have one question and we'll end. Okay.
Dr. Shankar, what was...
I had a rare privilege, you know. I met her very accidentally, probably after 30 years. I didn't actually recognize her. I knew that her husband is a renowned writer in Bengali. She was a very senior person in Prasar Bharati. And I'd go to Delhi to meet some friend. And I met her in the corridors of power in Prasar Bharati. And accidentally when I met her, her daughter is also a celebrity writer who is coming to Kochi to attend the Binale in another few days. She is into community development. Amazing lady, I should tell you that. You should feel blessed to have such a lady amongst you who just at the dropping of this event, I just told her that such an event is happening. I'm going there within an hour. She had the goodness of coming here and actually enriching our your August present itself. Actually, this is such an enriching experience. Thank you very much, Vandana, for coming here. And
Now, I was fascinated by your lecture, but I have a question. Since I work in arid areas also, the lake that you made in Singur, what was the source of water? Only rainwater? The lake that you made...
What is the source of the water? Whether it is rainwater.
The 7-acre lake that you made...
You can talk about rainwater harvesting. There were small springs. I, made small check dams. When you make small decks, there are small little, rivulets that come in. I actually started making check dams, earth check dams, made them into this thing. And then I started collecting. After it became a rain-fed area. And then, by collecting all that water, I turned the entire arid area, dry area, into, in Kerala, let me tell you that people don't know about the formation of, these rice fields. Rice fields, all the rice fields are not natural rice fields. The fields are man-made. All the rice fields are man-made. We made water retention structures to retain water on a particular land, and that's how all these lands were turned into rice fields later. You have the traditional knowledge. If you just look at that, you can make even this. That's why it's a dry area, rain scarce area. But 3 years, I made it into a 7-acre lake, mind you. If you have the will, rains will come, water will come. That's it.
Thank you. Before Lega gives a vote of thanks, may I invite our Managing Committee member, Professor Radha Tevenur, to hand over a memento to the guest speaker.
To thank everyone who made this session possible, I invite Ms. Lega Balachandran, Honorary Joint Secretary of KMA, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Good evening, everyone. Respected past presidents of KMA, our distinguished speaker of the day, Mr. Shankar ji, Mr. Dilip Narayanan, all other members of KMA, and my dear students. It was really a wonderful session, taking us to many real facts about the Mother Earth. He was saying many, I can relate, many of you can relate. Our generation people can relate many things he said about treating, he said the water, sewage water can be converted into real drinking water over a span of 50 meters, right sir? 50, yeah, 15 meters and 50 feet. Yes. Those we used to have in our homes in earlier days. The bathroom will be in the west side and the well will be in the northeast, so that the all the water, wastewater or sewage water will be cleaned and before coming to our wells. And just he spoke about the water retention. We used to, what you say, tadamedukka, tengina tadamedukka. That was a natural way of preserving water, so that it will go down to the earth and it will be collecting in our wells in a purified form. So we were used to all these measures, but over a period of actually short span of maybe 40 or 50 years, we lost everything. And as he said, we are constrained into closed surroundings. So it's the time to rethink about that. As John Abraham said, make sustainability as a character, not a habit. So I am sure that we will be thinking about that and we will make it as a point. So thank you so much, sir, for making us aware of the importance of preserving Mother Earth. Thank you so much. And thank you, Dilip, a fantastic person who makes every Friday evenings with thoughtful speakers, thoughtful subjects. Thank you, Dilip, for that. Thank you, past presidents, MC members of KMA, other members of KMA, students, my dear friends. Thank you so much for being here today in large numbers. Thank you so much. And of course, our team, the strength of our KMA. Thank you so much for arranging everything in good spirit. Thank you so much. Have a great evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lega Balachandran, for your kind and thoughtful words. May I request everyone to kindly stand for the national anthem.
जनगण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तव जय गाथा जनगण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय जय